Hello everyone, my WW2 here, and with the Attack of the Dead major update, Sledgehammer also pushed out a whole slew of weapon changes, and included in these changes was something I actually wished for a while now, and is that they finally came around to buffing the launchers of World War II. So if you missed the patch notes, I also included a link to them in the description below. But the gist of it was that they did a flat buff to the damage of the rifle grenade, and also included a damage buff in the launch basic training that only applies to the Panzer and the Bazooka. So in this quick video, I tested just how this affects the one-hit kill radius of all three launchers, and how exactly these new changes work against both Hunker and Armored Division users. Starting right off with the rifle grenade, it received a max damage buff from 120 to 125 damage, and a minimum damage buff from 25 to 35 damage. These new damage values will directly translate to a fairly small one-hit kill radius increase, as shown on the screen right now. And this change in-game is somewhat noticeable, but I feel like the damage is already quite fair and is far from being the main problem that holds this launcher back. Although don't get me wrong, you definitely can kill with this attachment, but their overall clunky feeling of equipping it, and the long priming distance to pair with it, makes it very difficult to use consistently. So if you want more details on the rifle grenade, I also made an in-depth video on it, linked in the description below. But however, one extra detail that I may have missed previously in that video mentioned, or perhaps it was added with the recent update, is that the rifle grenade can actually resupply itself when you use launched, exactly like it would with a regular launcher. And like I mentioned in my previous videos, this is very useful to use with Expeditionary, as now you can try to mark enemies using the rifle grenade, and not have to worry about just having 2 grenades per life. Next, for the Bazooka, using the launch basic training almost fully reverts it back to the original damage profile back when the game was first released. And of course, many people thought this was awful with its damage, but now since the rockets actually travel faster thanks to the Division update, I found things to be a lot more different this time around. Whereas killing enemies was surprisingly easy at close to medium range, and I didn't actually feel like it was too wacky like it did in the first few months of the game. But despite my praise for it, keep in mind that you still have to be fairly accurate with it to avoid hit markers, as you can probably see from my gameplay. And then again, this was never meant to be used against people anyways, so I think this puts the Bazooka in a relatively balanced spot when you pop on the launch basic training. Last but certainly not least, the Panzer got hit hard with the Division update, to the point where it was almost useless and definitely frustrating to use. However, now with the launched basic training, it gains a massive boost to its damage, as its one-hit kill radius is actually straight up doubled from my testing. For comparison, this restores it back to around 2/3 of the Panzer's original damage when the game first launched. And in game, this performs very well, and it feels very similar to how it was before the Division update nerf. And with me being an absolute fan of this weapon, and it's actually arguably my most favorite weapon in the game, I am very pleased to see this change, as it means I can finally once again enjoy the Panzer just like before. As for the actual balance of the weapon though, I feel like it's fine with how it performs now with launched, as if the damage was any higher than this, it would be extremely spammable with 4 rockets, plus with the ability of being able to resupply. But I actually feel like it would be better for the Panzer if it got a little bit of tuning to its damage without launched, because after all, it's supposed to be an anti-infantry weapon, and if you're not using launched, it fails in pretty much any aspect at this. Now, if you realize that I missed how these three launchers stacked up against Armored and Hunker, I decided to just group up these results since it still requires a direct impact on full health explosive resistance users. So this is one thing I would definitely want changed, as this almost completely cancels out the launched basic training back to just being useless. All I would suggest is just adding a very small one-hit kill radius that could even just extend out to just 1 meter for at least just the Panzer, since it specializes in anti-infantry, so it doesn't make sense that it performs the exact same as the Bazooka in this aspect. So in summary, I feel that this change to launch is a very great step in the right direction, as now there's actually a reasonable amount of worth in using launched rather than just getting rockets. Now you may ask, is it spammable? I would say it's still far from it, as you still need to use strategy with these launchers to succeed. If you just randomly run around with it, I will more than guarantee you'll still have a hard time with both the Panzer and the Bazooka. If you want some more tips on how to use these launchers, I made a quick video a while back that can still apply to how they're balanced in World War II right now. Although keep in mind that it is outdated in terms of the damage stats, but the strategies here I mentioned in this video are still good to go. You'll be able to find it as a link on the card in this video or in the description below. But that's all for this video, and if you found it useful, I always appreciate sharing and liking these guides. And as always, thanks for stopping by, and until the next video.
Have the momentum.